Okay, hello, and welcome to this webinar on making tax digital for VAT. A little bit about myself first. My name's Tim Woodgates. I'm an associate and tax specialist at Stephens East Midlands. So the purpose of this webinar is to inform you about what making tax digital is, what it's going to mean for your business, what steps you need to take to make sure you're compliant, and without being sort of overly positive about the whole changes, but how it might be a benefit to your business as well. So firstly, what is making tax digital? Broadly, this is the submission of regular financial information to HMRC via digital means, and that effectively means that you will need to record the transactions of your business, all of your sales, your expenses, all of your bank information, everything recorded in functional compatible software. So this means that if you are a business that keeps records manually, then this will no longer be a compliant system from April 2019. So that's not too far away. But this only applies for VAT purposes. So it's going to coincide with the reporting of the VAT return. So the plans at the moment is only going to be to an application for VAT rather than any other taxes. HMRC have said that April 2020 will be the earliest where the plans will be possibly widened to involve other taxes, but at the moment it's only for VAT purposes, and this is mandatory from April 2019. So this isn't an optional thing. This is something that businesses that are going to be brought within this regime, they need to do from April 2019. So why is this happening? How has this arrived? And this is basically HMRC's plans for a more modern digital service, and they've stated their ambition to be one of the most digitally advanced tax administrations in the world. And this is part of their plans. It's trying to interact with businesses on a digital basis, rather than older methods. And a lot of this is about reducing the tax gap. They estimate that £9 billion of tax is lost every year due to tax errors and mistakes, and they feel that MTD is a way of alleviating that problem. Whether you personally believe this is the right way of going about it, I'll leave up to you, but HMRC have said it's only going to cost £109 to make the transition to MTD, which I think many of you listening now will realise that's clearly wrong. If you need to change your systems for record keeping, it's going to cost more than £109. But this is where we are, and this is where MTD has come from. So who does this apply to? It's all businesses that are VAT registered and have taxable turnover above the VAT registration threshold, which is still currently £85,000. So what this means is if you are a business that is VAT registered, but are registered voluntarily, i.e. that you have a turnover beneath 85,000, then the MTD for VAT won't apply to you just yet. But this MTD for VAT will apply whether you're a company or whether you're a sole trader or a partnership. So it's the VAT criteria that determines whether you will need to comply with this or not. Are there any concessions? So is there any get out to this? So the first bullet point there, I've said it, if your turnover is beneath the VAT registration threshold, then you won't need to deal with MTD for VAT just yet. There's some other points there about incompatibility with religious belief. But one of the most, perhaps the most common one might end up being about internet connectivity. So if this is something that will apply to your business, which I'm hoping not if you're listening to this webinar, you might have to apply for exemption from HMRC. So this is, you can't unilaterally decide that you don't have to do this. You need to get in contact with HMRC to make sure that your business is officially exempted from the new regime. So what do you need to do now then? So the first step is to determine whether MTD for VAT will apply to your business. Then look at the system, your accounting system that you've got, to judge how compliant it's going to be from April 2019. And if it's not, then you need to look at what your options are with changing that system to make sure you are compliant. So in judging what your system needs to do, I've listed some bullet points there. So the idea is that all of your business transactions are recorded digitally, and that you form your VAT return directly from those records, and that VAT return is then submitted directly to HMRC from within the software. So that's kind of the key point, is that it's meant to be a seamless submission of data from the initial data entry right the way through to the submission of the VAT return. So no, even if you are using software currently to maintain your business records, if you are then using that to provide generate your VAT figures and then are manually keying those into HMRC's gateway, that won't be compliant for MTD for VAT from next year. It needs to be a seamless, direct submission of the VAT return from the software itself. So what information is needed? So main stuff about the business name, VAT registration number, and it goes without saying really. But other than that, it's about recording invoice dates, invoice totals, VAT rates and things like that. Your system also needs to be able to cope with VAT adjustments and bad debt relief claims. If you're a business that's partially exempt, the calculations to do with that need to be factored into your accounting system. Other things will be fuel scale charges is another. So that's something you need to make sure your system can deal with. I was going back one slide, just use this just to point out that the information that gets submitted to HMRC is still just the 9 boxes on the VAT return. Even though your system needs to record all this information, HMRC do not yet, at least, get a detailed breakdown of all the information behind those figures. It is just determining what your system needs to be able to do to be compliant. So moving on to spreadsheets, which is quite a common query about whether spreadsheets count as functional compatible software or not. And the answer is a bit convoluted in its yes and no. If you have a spreadsheet by itself, then that won't be compliant for MTD. But a lot of the HMRC guidance at the moment says that you can use spreadsheets, provided that there is some kind of linking software between the spreadsheet records and the connection to HMRC itself via an application programming interface, which in layman's terms basically means a piece of software sort of wedged in the middle. So this is an example here from HMRC's published guidance on MTD as it stands. So that there needs to be, if you're going to maintain your records in a spreadsheet, then there has to be some digital link between that going into another piece of software, which then connects to HMRC directly. So there's that an unbroken digital link between the records and the submission of the VAT return. So spreadsheets are an option, but you do have to wonder whether it is the right way to go with these, with an accounting. Very little software options out there that facilitate that bridging software role, and providers out there that are working on this, saying that they won't be able to release it to the public until spring next year, which is very close to when MTD for VAT will actually apply. And there are rumours in accounting circles as well that there may be some changes to HMRC's position on spreadsheets. Whether they backpedal on this being an option for your business, I don't know, or whether they'll perhaps restrict the length of time that spreadsheets will be an acceptable solution. We don't know, but you need to ask, if you're having to buy software anyway to do the bridging link, it might determine that you need to keep your data in a prescribed format, which might mean changes from how you've done it previously. So you might decide it's more hassle than it's worth, but it's an option for you. So the other options are you can either invest in functional compatible software or outsource all the bookkeeping and the VAT reporting function. If you go down the software route, there's lots of choices out there nowadays. There's Sage, QuickBooks, and Xero, listed plenty there. There's lots of things to consider about which one's right for your business. I've listed some considerations there. If you're already using software, Sage 50, for example, you might need to make sure that you are on the latest version of the software to make sure it's MTD compliant. Because a lot of the software providers will not be upgrading more historical versions to be MTD compliant. So even if you are on a software package already, you might need to look at making sure you are up to date, and that's going to bring with it a cost to your business. So it's something you need to look at. So even if you're sort of most of the way there with MTD for VAT, you need to be aware of this. Especially now, there's lots of movement towards cloud accounting as well, with Xero and QuickBooks. They all have cloud-based products out there now. But this is what I was talking about with MTD possibly being a positive thing for your business, in that if you're using cloud accounting, there's lots of third-party apps that you can use to improve the bookkeeping side of your business. There's automatic bank feeds. There's expense and invoice scanning with options like Receipt Bank and auto entry and things like that. So there's loads of opportunities to streamline and the efficiency of your bookkeeping. So even if MTD isn't the sole reason for moving in this direction, there's lots of other things to consider as well. And currently, Moore Stephens, we can offer discounted rates for businesses moving onto Sage Business Cloud. So there's £15 a month for the main piece of software, and only £5 a month for the entry level products that they have, which is, I think it's about £7 discount on accounting software and about £5 on Accounting Start. So if you get in contact with Moore Stephens, then we'll be able to offer that to you. That is exclusive for Moore Stephens East Midlands clients only. The other alternative is outsourcing. So if all the transitioning to computer software or any other method just seems a bit too much for you, there's always an outsourcing option where you can engage a firm like Moore Stephens to remove the MTD headache for you, and deal with all the bookkeeping side of your business. But again, this has benefits beyond just an MTD solution, in that we be able to advise in a more timely manner in how to improve your business. If there's any weaknesses that we identify, that we can help rectify. And there's lots of benefits as well in looking at tax planning, management reporting, and all of that sort of thing. So when do you need to act? I mean, as I said already, it applies from April 2019. So this is for VAT periods that begin after the 1st of April 2019, which I've noted there is very close to when the UK is scheduled to leave the EU, which may bring with it a whole other raft of complications. But that's where we're at the moment. But so this might seem a bit of a way down the road, but if in certain circumstances, you might need to act a lot faster than you think. For example, if you have a 30th of June year end as your accounting period, and your VAT returns just tie in with the year end, it means that your first period under MTD for VAT will be that last quarter there, 1st of April 19 to 30th of June 19. So you will need an MTD system in place for that VAT quarter. But if you wait until then to actually make the change, you're going to have 9 months of your business records on the new accounting system. Days away. So you need to be acting very if you're a business in this business. So what if you don't comply? So there is a penalty regime in place. For the very first year, HMRC have said there'll be a soft landing approach, which means that they won't be being very heavy-handed with any penalties in the first year. But from April 2020, non-compliance with the new regime will mean that your business will accumulate points. So in a similar fashion to how you might accumulate points for speeding on your driving license, for example, it's going to work in a similar fashion. So once a business accumulates a certain number of points, there'll be financial penalties for that. and after a period of good compliance, and those points will expire to cleanse the business record. From the point of view of the VAT return itself, it will still look the same. All the submission and payment dates are remaining exactly the same, so there should be, in this regard, little disruption to your current routine. Even if you're on alternative VAT schemes such as flat rate scheme or annual accounting, you still need to comply. All the rules are still the same. It's just that the sort of the back end of how you produce the return is changing. And the last point I've put there about with any errors or partial exemption adjustments, provided that your software can detail those adjustments within the figures that are reported, then that would be completely fine. Lots of businesses might do these calculations on a separate spreadsheet, but provided these are journaled into the software, before, so it forms part of the records that are submitted to the revenue, then there shouldn't be any issues with that. So yeah, that brings me to the end of the webinar. I hope you found it useful. Just would conclude in saying that whilst MTD for VAT, at first viewing appears like a big compliance burden, but trying to think positively about it. If you are a business that is using manual records or spreadsheets, this might be an opportunity to do things differently, and you might bring about an improved relationship with accountants like us, who are better placed to provide valuable advice, and it might also streamline a lot of the systems that you have for bookkeeping, using some of the additional third-party apps that are available as well. So yeah, if you need to get in contact with more Stephens, if you have any queries or would like some assistance with the transition, then the details for the Corby, Peterborough and Northampton offices are on the slide there. So besides that, let's say thank you very much for listening, and I hope to speak to you soon. Thank you.